afternoon. Thank you for joining us at New Day Fellowship Church, growing church new vision for a multicultural generation. We thank you for joining us this afternoon. There's something special that's going on right now. Not only that, we got two beautiful people that are gathered here. And not only that, you will get to know their name, not only that, but how they got started in their businesses, and not only that, but how they came closer in a relationship. And that's how I got to know them, by other people in the chamber, by they had a meeting here. But I want to introduce you to Mr. Drayton McLane and introduce you to Mr. James Keys, James W. Keys. Okay, I want to make sure you get that right. And Drayton McLane Jr. I know you don't like to say that, but I had to say that. But I want to welcome you all to this fantastic and one and only. It's exciting that I get to get these two in the room at the same time, and it's amazing that you all have came together, put your schedules together, and allowed me to just talk to you all about your life and so far and what's going on in your life. So, Mr. McLean, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll go to Mr. Keys, if you don't mind, please.
Well, Robert, you're a famous person in our family. Many of you might not know this, but Robert, early in his career, was a retailer.
Yes, sir.
And he was in a big retail department store here. And my wife thought, even though there were 40 or 50 other people working in Dillard's, she sought you out. She said, I want to work with Robert. You were famous, and this was 30 or 40 years
yes, sir.
ago.
It's been a while.
And you were famous. She said, he's young, he knows the material, he knows what I like, and I love for him. She would tell me that before she went. And that was, I believe, before you became a minister.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So our past does catch up with us. So you were very famous and very effective. I'm Drayton McLane. I'm very sophisticated. I'm from Cameron. Cameron is about 35 miles east of Temple, and it's a town of about 5,000. I graduated from high school in 1954, and it was 5,200. Moved forward 75 years, and it's still 5,200. It hadn't changed much. But I grew up in a family business. My grandfather in 1894, and then my dad in 1921 went to work together in the wholesale grocery business. And then in 1959, when I got out of college, I joined my dad. So I worked with him. We, in 1966, moved our business to Temple. We needed to be in a larger metropolitan area in order to develop stronger leaders in our business, and also it was on Interstate 35. And we moved the business here in 66. And one of the distinctions in our company from the very beginning, 1894 until 1966, our primary customer were small rural grocery stores. Mm-hmm. And in towns like Temple, there were 30 or 40 small neighborhood grocery stores. But supermarkets such as Safeway and Kroger began to come and ease that out. And the good Lord, I am convinced, guides our path someday. Mm-hmm. In 1968, there was a 7-Eleven right near downtown, right by the Baptist church. I went by there one night about 9 o'clock to buy something, and it didn't have anything in the store, or didn't have the items I was looking for. And just the manager, I said, boy, you sure are out of a lot. And he said, yep, but we have a bad wholesaler that supplies us, and we have a lot of problems with that. I thought, wow, that's me. So I asked him who his boss was, and I can still remember it said his name was Alton Lang. He had 7 stores in the Temple area, and he gave me his name. So I called Alton the next day. I was pumped up. I was really going to give him a pitch. So I called him. He was very pleasant. And he said, I have nothing to do with who we buy from, but we sure need someone like you. And I asked him, well, who could I call? And he said, Pete Exline. This was the Texas division, and he was over all merchandising, and he could make a decision from whom they buy from. Mm-hmm. And so knew where their office was in Dallas, and in college taken a business letter writing course. So I pulled out my book, and I spent 4 or 5 hours writing a letter to Pete Exline I've never seen. I wrote it to him, and I was so proud. About 6 or 7 days later, I got my letter back. That's what ticked me off. And he wrote on there, not interested, Exline. Wow. That really ticked me off.
Yes.
I thought, well, he's not going to get the best of me. So the first day of every month, I wrote an original, another letter. It went on for 9 months, never heard a thing out of it. One day my phone rang and I picked it up and he said, McLane? And I said, yes, sir. Pete Exline. All he said was, will you be in your office at 10 o'clock tomorrow? I said, yes, I will. That changed McLane Company forever forth.
Wow.
Our guest today, Jim Keys, was ultimately the president of 7-Eleven, and we had progressed along there. But it shows how God directs your path sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We can have all these degrees and all this super strategy. It was me stopping at 7-Eleven about 9 o'clock one night and finding out Alton Lang and Pete Exline. Changed everything.
Wow. That's awesome. All right, you pick it up from there, sir.
Yeah, well, I had a similar beginning. I didn't have the privilege of growing up in Texas, unfortunately. I got here as soon as I could. But I grew up in a similar small town environment. We had about 3,000 in the small town out in the western part of Massachusetts. Difference was we had too many kids, too little money, and I literally grew up in a 3-room shack with no running water.
Mm.
And turns out, I tell people today, it was the best thing that could have ever happened.
Wow.
Because it gave me an advantage. And I especially tell young people today that if you see adversity as opportunity and you learn from it, it can be your superpower. And that, I think, was ultimately my superpower growing up without, and realizing that the only path that I had, my dad used to tell me, I don't know what to tell you, son, because he was a factory worker. Don't know what to tell you, but I do know that the people that have freedom have an education. And my recommendation is just learn as much as you can. And so I did. I dove into the books, and that was my path. Ending up going to college and getting on to graduate school, and then ending up with the privilege of ultimately being at 7-Eleven as a relatively young guy. And then I had an even greater privilege because, you see, the coaches, the mentors, the teachers along the way changed my life. Mm-hmm. I learned so much from teachers that took me under their wing and let me believe that anything was possible. And it's those mentors, those coaches in your life that can change your trajectory. Well, little did I know, as a young man, I would have the privilege of leading an exercise to sell 7-Eleven's distribution business to a gentleman called Drayton McLane.
That man right there.
Yeah, and we had the privilege of working together on this transaction. I was a kid. He was very established, and I learned more than just business from Drayton. What I learned is that anything is possible, and I learned the power of his spirituality driving him as a business person, that you could be a man of faith and a man of business, and people would respect you even more for that. And so, yes, I was blessed with some great mentors who helped me along the way.
Now let's get into the gist of it. I know that you all had a chemistry that worked very well together. And then out of that, what took place?
Well, as I said earlier, we became a supplier to 7-Eleven in Texas and Colorado and Utah and other states, and our responsibility with them, and they developed their own grocery distribution business. But, all strategies that we have don't work the way they're supposed to.
Yes, sir.
And we were ultimately, with Jim's leadership, that we were ultimately able to buy Southland's distribution business, and we acquired that and folded that into McLane Company. But the main thing is we talk about things that we've done, but number one is your faith. That's more important than anything. Then your family. I learned that from our mother and father, mainly my mother. Not just your immediate family, but your combined family. We overlook that in today's society. Is keep that together. The third one is the big deal, is relationships, who you select to be your friends. And my mother, as I was just a young boy in Cameron, my mother had spies all over town, and they reported that I had misbehaved somewhere. And I used to have to sit by my mother's chair, and she would scold me. And she said, hundreds of times, who you select to be your friend will ultimately dictate your life. And I just wish she had known Jim Keyes. Just because in that, I remember I graduated from high school in 1954. I was so excited to go to Baylor. That was 70 miles up the road. You know, that's equivalent today is 2,000 miles, but it was 70 miles. I was away from home and lectures from my mother. And I was at Baylor for about 6 weeks, and I came home one weekend. First thing she said, she pulled up her chair and said, "Son, I want you to sit here, and I want you to tell me all about your new friends you have made." She never met them. She wanted to know who they were. And throughout my business career, she had me talk about people. She would have been, if she had gotten to know Jim Keyes, she would have been so proud of me to have Jim Keyes. And my mother passed away when she was 89, and she struggled at Scott and White the last few months of her life. And I'd go to visit her. You know the first thing she'd ask me?
What is that, sir?
Tell me who some of your new friends are. I wish she had known you, Robert. That she would have really patted me on the back.
I don't know. I'm probably...
So relationships are outside of our faith and our family are the deal.
Yes, yes.
We go to school, we learn all the formulas and all the scientific theories. I don't remember any of my algebra formulas that I had, but learning how to work with people and have a rock solid faith is the most important thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is so awesome to have a relationship. It's because without relationship, we wouldn't be where we are today. You know, and the Bible says by faith. And so we're glad that we do have faith and all that, but we stick on our faith and not on our abilities or even our income, the other different things that we could rely on, especially our education. But it's not about that. It's about trusting in the Lord. So I appreciate it. And that's why I get excited to get y'all two under one roof together. I'm overwhelmed and didn't know that this gentleman also is a place to Oregon. Had no idea.
I've known him for 40 years, and I didn't know that until we walked in the door. But maybe we're lucky.
Yes, sir. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I didn't say I was a good organist or a good musician. I just did. It was actually I was a starving student, and as I mentioned earlier, I had a guidance counselor say, "Hey, Keyes, I heard you're taking lessons." I was, but I was not an organist. But he gave me a chance to interview at a local congregational church, and I sat down and I played "How Great Thou Art," and it worked. It's one of my favorite songs today. And they hired me for, I think it was $50 a service. And I played. Thank goodness the choir was about 85, 90 years old, so they didn't care.
They
were just
couldn't hear
happy to have a warm body, and they probably couldn't hear me anyway.
Yeah.
And it helped me learn to play. Actually, it was a real blessing that I had that opportunity.
Yes, yes. And we know, Miss McLane, you got a birthday coming up real soon.
Well, it's right down the road. I remember when I was just a little boy, I had two older sisters. And my mother told us that my dad was going to have his 40th birthday. And we were going to have a family party for him. And I got real sad for a couple of days. And she came up to him and said, "What's bothering you? You're so sad." I said, "Well, my dad's fixing to be 40, and he's about lived his life out."
Wow.
And you know, in those days, 40 was a big number. 90 is a bigger number. But that's one of the blessings we have today. We have through wonderful health care. We work to stay in good condition, and we're living longer and more productive lives. This is a great generation to live in.
Yes, sir. Now, both of you all are in business. Now, how do you all put the business world inside of God's world and instrumented it?
Well, I was fortunate to have good mentors. The Thompson family was the founding family of 7-Eleven, and they were not on the surface, but they were behind the scenes very faithful people. And I witnessed them very comfortably bringing their faith into the business. I had mentors like Drayton and got to see him embrace faith in business. And as I evolved, I began to realize that your faith is such an important part of business success.
Yes,
so I'm literally out teaching today. I've been blessed to have been in 16 countries in the last 12 months after launching that book. And my whole message is that the combination of education and faith will allow you to overcome any fear at all. And fear is the single biggest obstacle that holds us back in business and in life. And it's a very, very powerful combination. And interestingly, it works all over the world. I've found a way to speak to my faith in a way that has been resonating in places like Saudi Arabia or China. And what I use is I invoke Star Wars. And I talk about when Yoda was teaching Luke to be a Jedi. Luke had to know how to be a Jedi, know the values. He had to have knowledge to be a Jedi. But he still wasn't getting it. And he just couldn't be successful as a Jedi until Yoda turned to him and said, "May the Force be with you." And when Luke embraced the Force, all of a sudden he could do anything. Now, I didn't know, but George Lucas intended "May the Force be with you" as a metaphor for your faith, because he knew Star Wars would be popular all over the world. And he couldn't say "May the Lord be with you" necessarily, and it may not resonate in certain parts of the world, but "May the Force be with you" basically was a message that whatever your faith base is, it has to start from within. And as Christians, of course, we know that. And so I'm out telling the business world that you must have a combination of knowledge and faith. And with the powerful double-edged sword of knowledge and faith, there's absolutely nothing to fear, and you can accomplish anything.
Yes. Now, with saying that, now I know the scripture tells us don't look at their face. Why? Because you see people that look angry or feel like they are overbearing or feel like you're boring to me. How do you overcome while you presenting, not looking at their face, pay them no mind, and present what you have to present to get where you are today?
Well, I'm looking right at a message right in the back of that room that is my guiding force. It's gratitude. I wake up every single morning with gratitude. And in my case, see, when you come from nothing, you appreciate everything. And so I literally wake up every day grateful for this day and what adventure it may bring. When you wake up with that sense of gratitude, it's hard to be angry. And it's easy to deal with people. Even if people are angry, you say, you know what? It's not their fault. They must have had a bad day, and you get over it. So that's been my tool to be able to make it through. Drayton?
Now, I remember Mr. McLane, let me jump in. I know when he walks in the room, he speaks to everybody. And he go in and shake everybody's hand. I've seen him. And he doesn't do this just sometimes. He do it every time. And he captivates the room by him walking in and shaking people's hand, and everybody feel welcomed and everything else. Okay, go ahead.
His energy shows up before he does.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure the energy is always enlightened or profitable. We are so fortunate to be here with you today, but to be alive today. Something I think about all the time. There are 8.3 billion people that live in the world. There's 350 million live in America. Well, Jim and I can do the math on that. That's 4% of the people that live in the world. We had a 4% chance of be born and living in America. Aren't we grateful?
Yes, sir.
Jim and I have been all over the world. I haven't been anywhere where the people there don't want to get where we are. So we find faults, we moan and groan and gripe and complain. We got nothing to complain about. This shows you adjust to life is mainly adjustment. We were supposed to be with you about 10 days ago.
Yes, sir.
And Jim was going to fly his plane down here. I've never heard of this before, but the Temple Airport was closed for 10 days. He didn't get frustrated. You didn't get frustrated.
I can say I did. Okay, go ahead. I was excited. Okay.
No. When we had to cancel.
Yes, sir.
Your faith does it. So you just adjust. And I see people, the slightest thing happens to them, and it just tears up their day.
Yes, sir.
Or they tear up other people. We're so lucky. Think of the health care we have today and the lifestyle of the surgeries or the medical care we can get that wasn't there 10 years ago. It's getting even better. So we're so lucky to be who we are. And that's why I feel like Jim and you, when you get up in the morning and we're alive, wow, it's a big deal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, go back down memory lane. And I remember you worked for a gentleman named Sam Walton. Tell us about Sam Walton, that he was just low key, and I think you went for the summer down there to work for him.
Sam was anything but low key, but he lived in Bentonville, Arkansas. If anybody not been in the hills of northwest Arkansas, that is somewhat of a rural. Cameron's a really upbeat town compared to some back in northwest Arkansas. And Sam was a visionary and had begotten. Sam was a strong, devout Christian.
Mm-hmm.
He and his wife were members of the Presbyterian Church there in Bentonville. Was very active, even when he was the richest man in the world. They went to church every Sunday. They raised 4 children. They raised the children in the service. But Sam was an idea. Jim did this in 7-Eleven, and we talked a little bit of how they moved to new things. Sam had 7 Ben Franklin stores. Anybody remember old variety stores called
Yes.
Ben Franklin?
Mm-hmm.
And they were small. He had 7 of them in rural northwest Arkansas. He heard of a store that opened right outside of Detroit that was something new, Kmart. He drove over there to see that, drove back to Bentonville, Arkansas, and he told Helen, his wife, we're going to sell all 7 of these stores and we're going to open a discount store. And she said, what's a discount store? He said, I'm not sure, but that's where the future is. And they did. And he became the wealthiest man in the world. Walmart today did $870 billion, has 2.3 million employees, is the biggest corporation in the world.
Wow.
But if I could just pass on this note, we chase the wrong rabbit sometimes. Here Sam was the wealthiest man in the world. He developed in his about 71, 72, he developed bone cancer. Mm-hmm. And they weren't able to arrest it. And he was, of course, close to the end of his life. He loved to dove a quail hunt down in South Texas. And he called me in January, said, I've got one more quail hunt, and I'd like you to go with me. So we went down there, and the next morning we went out and walked for about 100 yards, and he just had to sit down. He was not feeling good. And tears came in his eyes, and I said, Sam, what's wrong? He said he was the wealthiest man in the world at that point. He said, I would give up every dime I have if I could regain my health. We chase the wrong rabbits.
Yes. Man, you touched me on that one.
It's good to make money and to build things, but to have your faith, to have your family, and to experience things. He said, I'd give every penny if I could regain my health. So that really gave me a focus, and I thought, I'm going to tell that story, that we chase the wrong rabbit sometimes.
Wow, wow. Well, sir, your turn. Wow.
No, that is a powerful story, because we get distracted and we get caught up. I'm guilty, getting caught up in chasing the business world and opportunities. Yes. And it's ultimately, as Drayton said, it's your family, your faith, and your friends that make more difference than anything else. And if you don't have your health, you don't have any of those 3. Well, you still have your faith.
Yes.
Which ultimately, I think the older we get, the more we realize too, and appreciate how faith can not only has changed your life, but will be that guiding light into the future.
Yes, sir. Now, I Mr. Clay, I got to pull this out. Okay, I got to pull this out. I like it so much about your mother and how you was about to buy the Astros, and she asked you this question. And go ahead.
The question, I told my father was in about 91, 92. I was considering buying the Astros, and he put his hands over his head and said, I used to be so proud of you. What's gone wrong? But anyway, he said, have you talked to your mother? And I said, no. He said, that's going to be a problem. And I said, I know that is. and that's playing on Sunday. So when I talked to my mother and I told her the noble purpose we wanted to put character and get the players involved in the community and show good examples. And she said, "Are you going to play on Sunday?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Why don't you just tell them you'll never play on Sunday?" I said, "Well, Mom, it doesn't work that way." And wouldn't have to play on Sunday. But I finally, through a series of events, made her more comfortable with it.
And you had to go ask the pastor.
Well, we had a Baptist pastor, and his name was Ed Stewart, and a devout preacher, great man of God. And she loved him, and he had recently retired. She said, "Why don't you go talk to Pastor Stewart?" So I did. And he said, "Drayton, tell me why you want to buy the team." And I told him we wanted to set a great Christian example and get the players involved in noble good things. And he said, "Well, if you'll do that, I'll support you." So couldn't wait to go talk to my mother. And I said, "Dr. Stewart said if I do these noble purposes, he thinks it would be a good idea." And she changed her expression and said, "You know, he's retired. I think we ought to go see the new pastor." Anyway, we finally got her comfortable with it.
Oh, that's so fun. So being with Blockbusters, being with 7-Elevens, how do you institute this as you go forward in life?
Well, actually, he mentioned a couple of my careers, but the single biggest opportunity that I had that I never took was right after leaving 7-Eleven, I had a call.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a voicemail. And it was a guy named Drayton McLane.
Mm.
Said, "Keys." I don't know if you remember this. He said, "Keys. So, understand you just sold 7-Eleven. Now you're without a job." He said, "I got a job for you. I need a right fielder. Get down here reporting on Monday."
I told her you'd make more with me than you were making.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't take him seriously. I should have. That's the biggest opportunity I've missed in my career.
I hope his baseball skills would have been better than his organ skills.
yeah. Just a little.
Oh, and like I said, I follow, Mr. McLane, and I know him, by what he was saying, and I still recall when the Astros lost the game, and you was going to go and console them, and you said they was down at the inside the dugout just having fun, just excited, and you're like, "What's wrong with you guys? You just lost in the ninth inning," and he said, Jeff Bagwell said, "Mr. McLane," he said, "we can't think about what just happened. We got to play a game tomorrow. So we have to learn to think. We have to go into tomorrow's game and not think about just what happened." And he said, "Wow, I never thought of it that way."
He was saying, all of us were in high school athletics, and if we lost a game,
Yes.
we cried.
Yes.
It was devastating. And so one of the early games, the first year on the team, we got beat by the San Francisco Giants in the ninth inning. There's only 25 players in a locker room, and I thought I was going to go in there. They were crying. These are professional players. They were going to be crying, and they had jazzy music, and they were hooping and hollering. And I asked Jeff, "What's going on here?" And he said, "Well, what's your problem?" I said, "We just lost the game." He said, "We're only going to play 162 of these this year.
Wow.
Tomorrow, in less than 24 hours, we're going to be playing again. If we're in a bad mood now, we'll be in a bad mood then."
Mm.
He told me I have been faithful I tried to be faithful in my church and my faith. But I learned something from a baseball player that was 26 years old. He said, "If you're going to make it in this, we're going to play 162 games." He said, "You only need to know 2 words. And those 2 words are hope and tomorrow." I have patterned a lot of my life after that. You got to be hopeful, and there's always going to be tomorrow.
Yes, I get excited about hearing you all the time when I get to see you. One of the slogans that you always use is "keep charging," and that encourages me. Because sometimes my days like everybody else.
Robert, you need to pick it up.
I'll pick it up starting today, right now. Pick it up. Thank you, sir. But I like to hear that because, like I said, instead of you consoling, you're doing it in a good Christian attitude, and you're telling people that there's hope, that there's a future. So get into it. Quit worrying about what just happened. Quit worrying about yesteryear, but go into it. Scripture says, "This is the day that the Lord has made, and we're gonna rejoice and be glad in it." And sometimes we feel like but we're still into yesterday, what happened yesterday, but yesterday's gone. And so we got to have that mindset instead of thinking about what happened yesterday. Let's go into today with a different attitude. And so I get that from you all. You all excited, and now that you all have met a lot of people, and you all still have kept the faith. At all these different years, you kept the faith. I'm so excited. And so go ahead, sir.
I've got a word for it. I've adopted this word. It was actually a British violinist that had a remarkable influence on some young urban kids she was teaching to play the violin, and she whispered something in their ear and pushed the music stand aside, and this kid stood up and just played beautifully. And it was amazing. He went from squeaky violin to being able to play almost as if I could play the organ. And I said, what did you tell that young man? And she said, I reminded him that relentless positivity is what's going to carry him forward. You can do this. You've got this. Keep charging, as Drayton would say. And that attitude of relentless positivity really does work. There are very few people walking this earth that I think embody relentless positivity as much as Drayton McLane. Through my whole career, I've never seen him with anything but a positive attitude. Keep charging.
I mean, and even when I get to go in, when he allowed me to come in to his office, his place, he's already just business minded, excited. And I heard this many years ago from the late Roscoe Harrison. He said, Mr. McLane Monday morning starts his Sunday afternoon at 5. He said that's Monday morning to him. And he said you better be coming in and ready to go. Don't come in half stepping. And I liked how you had your office before, where you could see people come in, you see people that was late, you see people just coming to the parking lot. And I said, why is the office right there? He said, so he could see everything. And he did exactly that. So I'm excited. I get to learn off of him. I gleam off of him. Just look at him like, oh, what is he doing? Okay, so he don't know I'm watching him, but I am. But I'm so excited, and through you and through Whitney Thorough, got to meet Mr. James Keys. So appreciate it. Just in case y'all know, we got the CEO of Temple Chamber of Commerce, Whitney Thorough. She's in the house, and so without that, I get to know, and then I get to sit at the table, and so of course I was whispering, and so it was all good. So I get so excited that this can happen, and I didn't think I could have you all two in the same room at the same time on this podcast. So it's exciting for me that it can happen.
Miracles happen. Dare to dream, as the sign in the back of the room says. Dare to dream.
So I'm so excited. I know you all have a busy schedule, but I love to just chat more with you all. Now, one of my final questions is.
May I offer something?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I hate the word final because that means a test.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But if I could do something, a big part of life are problems. We wake up every morning and we have. Every night before I go to bed, I leave the office, I take out my yellow pad and I write 6 or 7 things I'm going to do. And generally, I look up the next day at 5 o'clock, I hadn't crossed any of them off. A leader adjusts to what's happening to them. May I give a good example?
Yes, sir.
Jim Keys. I knew Jim when it was a New York public company and had Prestige, by far the biggest convenience store group in the world, and they were everywhere. They hit some financial problems that was not in their making, but others making, and the company sold to Ito Yokodo. That's a Japanese retailer. Bought them. All of a sudden, I knew Mr. Ito, as he worked with, he didn't speak a word of English that I was ever around him with. His new bosses were all Japanese that live 6,000 miles away. He adjusted beautifully and lifted up that company. I think that would be good to get him just to recite a little bit, because the whole deal changed overnight. Was that not correct, Jim? And he adjusted. People get frustrated when the slightest thing happens to them.
Yes.
Just keep adjusting. Could you say how that came about?
Sure. Yeah, it was 7-Eleven did a leverage buyout back in the 1987 timeframe. They were literally trying to take the company private when Black Monday occurred, and they went forward with a deal, put on $4 billion of debt at 16.5%, 17%. And by 1991, the company was in bankruptcy, and they just they couldn't keep it going any longer. But as Drayton said, in times of crisis, that's when people either shine or the worst comes out. Fear kicks in. Uncertainty creates fear and creates bad behaviors in people. And I started the chat today by saying that growing up the way I grew up was an advantage because I had no downside. What are they going to do? Take my house? They did. They condemned my house when I was 11 years old. And so I have this expression that I always use, that change equals opportunity. And when I wrote this book that I put out recently, it was the first 3 words I put down. I've got to talk about education being the way you can keep up with change. I wrote, change equals opportunity. For the first time, I looked at those 3 words and I said, CEO. That is the job of a CEO, is to see change, because change is inevitable. You can't do anything about the universe and what it will deal out. It will deal out good things. It will deal out bad things. But we have everything to do with how we respond. And responding in a positive fashion will find the opportunity in any change. I don't know if I would have been CEO of a wildly successful public company. I started my career at Gulf, and they merged with Chevron. I may have been in a corner office somewhere in middle management and, had a nice career. But the crisis that 7-Eleven had forced me to change, forced the company to change. We reinvented the company, and it was a great opportunity for me and my career because I had my head up. I kept charging, as Drayton would say.
But I think there's a bigger picture. You had to adapt to a boss that was 5,000 miles away, speaking a different language, and had a totally different business style. I think that was the real major adjustment you made that was amazing.
Well, thanks, Drayton. I've got an expression that I've been using also called, I call it cultural literacy, and that the blessing for me was being able to understand that different cultures, as Americans, we have a tendency to think the whole world revolves around us.
Yes.
It's easy to do. And I have had the privilege now of doing business in Japan, and because it was such an unusual environment, I thought, well, maybe I better learn the language. And it wasn't easy, but learning a little bit of the language helped me understand the culture better. And then when it came time to bring 7-Eleven to Beijing, I had already been doing business with the Chinese. With the Japanese, it was easier to adapt to the Chinese culture and help 7-Eleven there. And it turns out that the world is shrinking. Technology is helping us do business. I was on a call the other day with a person in India, China, Kuwait, and me in Dallas. And it's the future, the opportunity to do business globally. Well, cultural literacy helps. And one last example. I don't know if you saw the World Cup, but some of the scenes from the World Cup are such a great lesson in cultural literacy, because we don't have to go to another culture, another country today to understand different cultures. But the Japanese, when they were playing in Texas, after the game, had bags, and they were cleaning up litter in the stadium.
Cleaning up the beer cups and all the popcorn and everything. They were cleaning up the area.
Yes.
When I had the Astros, we had about 150 people. It took them 3 hours to clean up the stands. It was immaculate. That's the culture in Japan.
Respect.
They respect each other.
Wow.
We can learn that.
We definitely need that.
Beautiful lesson, isn't it? Yeah.
It's
Cultural
awesome.
literacy.
That is awesome. So how do you deal with people who is, some people would say unlikable, and they're in the room with you, and every time you say positive, they say something negative. You say something positive, say something negative.
No, the way I look at it is I don't know what happened to them. They may have just had a call saying that their mother died, and they're really upset. You just don't know what causes that other person to have that attitude. So if you can be sensitive to it and not be offended by it, because this is, I think, where we all run afoul. We're all sensitive, so somebody gives us bad attitude, we give them bad attitude back, and then it's a negative cycle.
Yes.
But if we can just be sensitive to the fact that I don't know what's going on in their life, whatever it is, glad it's not mine because looks like it was pretty bad. And that sensitivity, I think, helps.
Yes.
It neutralizes what
Wow.
could be an increasing spiral of negativity.
Yes.
May I add one?
Yes, sir.
Here's the hero right here. Looking at your church, your daycare here, this was Bethune Elementary School. Both of my sons were bused across town to go to school here.
Mm.
It was a vibrant school, and then the population met. Normally, they would have bulldozed down this school. How did you have the vision to get the school and build it into a church?
Well, I'll be honest with you, okay? Because, this is honesty. I had a vision. The Lord showed me a vision. And he showed me a vision about 2 years before this actually happened. And I saw a bunch of kids just running around me. And I saw another gentleman who was passed on now, Ralph McCormick. And we were just we were just looking at the kids and had merry-go-rounds. And so I was, like, wow, and of course I didn't know what it was all about. I just saw the vision. And then when I was approached by Temple Independent School District about this place, I drove around it, grass everywhere, some windows busted out and everything. I said, no, that's not it. Because I was looking for a turnkey job. And so I said, no, that's not it. Drove around the second time again, and a different day. And, nah, that's not it. Drove around another time, another day. And then the vision popped back on me. And I said,
You
wow.
prayed about it. You prayed
Yes,
about
sir, definitely. And then I said, wow. I said, let's sit down at the table and talk. And so that's how it came about. But here's it, Mr. Keys and Mr. McLane. We started in 2009. Had a board of directors on the Learning Academy. It didn't start open to the 16th of the year, 2016. For those years, and I'm pleading with the Lord, what do I tell these people every month? We don't have nothing. We haven't started nothing, and and he said, just keep pressing forward. And I was like, but I'm embarrassed, Lord. And Lord, I got this. Don't worry about this. And so I just kept on having board meetings, people jumping on, jumping off, jumping on, jumping off, moving around, saying, hey, this ain't gonna happen. And then it happened, and I was so excited that it happened. But it was a God thing. It wasn't my intellect. It was just waiting and being patient on this. And so that's how it came about.
Jim's career and my career.
Yes.
We waited on the Lord. How many people are here, kids are here each day?
142.
Where would they be if you hadn't have done that? On the streets?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In summertime.
Yes, so, I mean, it's a God thing. It's not, like I tell people all the time, I give him the glory, not me. Because if I try to run it myself, it would not run. But, I have staff that's, that's under me that does all this stuff for me. And it makes, God look good. Because people say, they tell me all the time, you're a child care center. And I said, no, it's not mine. It's the Lord's. We just submit to the Lord and have fun. So that's how I do
Were
things.
there ever any times you wondered, why in the world did I do this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jim could tell you that, and I could tell you that.
Yes, sir. And like I said, this is still just another stepping stone. We have 35 acres of land that we're going to build the church and leave this building to the daycare. So they're going to expand. So we're anticipating that as well. So we know that God has it.
I have not heard that. When will that occur?
Whenever God releases things.
That's a good answer.
But yes, and not only that, but we have 41 homes going up as well. And people said, are they affordable? So yeah, if you can afford it, then they're affordable. So that's how I look at things. So we've been in the making of that for about close to 4 years now. They said it takes 5 years. I thought we were going to do it in 2, but it did not happen. But it's on its way. And so I'm so excited that it's about to occur. And I'll be living to see it. So that's, praise God. So that's what I'm looking at to do. And not only that, but it's more than that. That's just the beginning. And we're looking at to have a grocery store. We had Drayton McLane III go with me. I said, can we put a Walmart over here? One of those little small Walmarts. And he took me around and drove around about 2-mile radius. And he went and talked to Walmart. And they said, no, because we look more of stop signs and red lights than anything. And it's not too many in here. So I said, okay, well, well, at least he did go, and it's a shot. But I know we still keeping hope alive. So I'm so excited about that, and thanks for your son for him to do that for me, because he could have said, Robert, stop dreaming, man. You too far out there. But but I'm excited that it's gonna happen. So that's how I do things. I'm just excited. Just people like, wow. And we talked to Mr. McLane about it before, and and the only thing he said out there, how much was them water machines cost? 130. And I was like, water machine? We're talking about a whole. You're talking about just a water machine. But the idea is that that I still recall Mr. Walton. They said that when he went to a place, and they showed him the whole store, and the only thing he was worried about was the pantyhose section. And he said, we need to go back and change our pantyhose section to like that. And he said, so they did. So, when people talk, I listen. People think, oh, that's why I don't talk too much, unless my wife is here. But but it's all good. But the idea is that, I like thank you all, because you all are trailblazers, and you all have set the pathway that all things are possible.
Our trail has slowed down a little bit.
But that's okay. You still
blazing.
It's full speed.
You're still blazing though.
yes. And you all have tilted the ground. The Bible says break up the fallow ground. So you all have done that. And so that's telling me that it can happen.
You know what it is? We're blessed. All three of us are blessed with I know this works for me, and I'm guessing it also works for Drayton, that we're just doing that. We're going on the path that we think we're being led down.
Yes.
And we're blessed with the ability to be able to help others and to do things that I never dreamed I'd be able to do. I'm sure Drayton never dreamed he'd be able to do some of the things he's doing, but we're just following direction.
Well, you all are great people to follow, because you all have instilled a lot of stuff inside of me. I haven't told you all this stuff, and I can't tell you everything, but I'm telling you, it's a good thing to even know you all, because sometimes people of your caliber would even say anything. They say, oh, that's Robert. Okay, bye, Robert. Go give me some coffee, Robert. Stuff like that. But the idea is you all are sitting down talking and relating and all that. But your busy schedule came to Temple, Texas, and and just relating, and you give the people that there's hope. There's hope for tomorrow. There's hope for today. So I get so excited.
Drayton started with the idea of family and faith and friendship, and I was just in Rome, and I heard the Italians with a great expression that reminded me of Drayton, and you. And the Italians have a saying, and you got to pardon my Italian because I don't speak Italian, but I remembered this toast, and it was gli amici sono la famiglia che scegliamo. And what that means, which is very beautiful, is that your friends are the family you choose.
I've not heard. That is beautiful.
Wow,
Isn't that
That's
beautiful?
worth the day right there.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Friends
sir.
are the family you choose. And I am delighted that you guys are my family.
Robert, if I can just finish it
Yes,
here, I want to thank Jim for coming down. He flew his own plane down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And there goes my phone right there. He flew
Somebody's
his own
quacking.
plane down here. He didn't have, a great cause. He enjoyed you. He enjoyed Whitney, and he wanted to be part of what you all are doing. So, Jim, thank you for taking your time. You devoted a day to this.
I asked him. I said, tell me your honorarium. He said, oh, don't worry about it. If Drayton's on the scene, don't worry about it. I'm like, wow. I said, I got to take advantage of that real fast, because I was in Mr. McLane's office earlier within the month or so. And he said, yes, every hour we go, it's just $5,000 that Robert owes us. I don't know if you remember that. Like, whoa. I said, can you make it just 5 minutes?
Yeah, friends are the family we choose, so I'm here out of friendship, and I'm delighted to be here.
Well, thank you all for coming, and not only that, but thank you all for being exciting guests to find, and not only that, but it's exciting that everybody get to hear you all, that you all are exciting people.
Invite us back.
Sir, I'm waiting on you all to just tell me, and I'm
You've
ready.
lifted my spirits. Hanging out with Jim and yourself.
Yes, sir.
And the Lord.
And you got to play next time.
Oh yeah,
You got to play.
time. Yeah,
You got to play. You got to play for us.
next time.
The 1 or 2 songs that you know, just play them.
Right.
We're gonna let you loose for about 8 minutes.
You may hire me for your services.
Yes, sir.
I may need a part-time job. How great thou art. Yeah.
We could stay all night listening to that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
That is
Color
true.
My World. If you remember that one, that was not exactly what the church wanted to hear, but it demonstrated that I had proficiency.
Yes, sir.
How great thou art, still my favorite today.
Well, guys, I'm so excited that they did come by and hang out with us. They have a busy schedule, and we may have went over a few minutes, but thank you for letting Mr. Drayton McLane Jr. and also Mr. James W. Keys come out and hang out with us and tell just a little bit about him. But Mr. McLane already had an implement saying that they're coming back. So it's going to have to be another time when you all could come back. And also, you could bring your wife, and you could bring your wife, and Wendy, you could bring your husband. And so we'll just have fun. So God bless you. Appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. Bye.
Good night.
Great day, and thank you for tuning in to A New Day Fellowship Church. We are so grateful that you joined us, and we pray that you were blessed by hearing God's living word. May his message inspire you to continue walking in faith, trusting that he is working all things together for your good. As we close out this service, feel free to leave a word of encouragement in the comments and share your testimony with others. Together, we can inspire and uplift those around us to live for God. Remember, this is your season. Hold on to his promises, stand firm in your faith, and watch as God does great things in your life. Continue to be blessed, and we look forward to seeing you again. Stay encouraged.